G'day fans and welcome to what is the last episode of Sci-Fi Zone for the year. How exciting is this? It's nice and warm outside, there's sunshine and there's birds tweeting. Christmas is only a bare handful of days away and everybody's stuck at home watching the two of us, or at least watching Claire because nobody ever looks at me. So how you going there, Miss Claire?
I'm pretty good. I'm psyched for Christmas to come. I can't wait. Even just to have a few days off work is going to be awesome.
Absolutely fantastic. Now,
it'll be fun.
Sorry about that. So what was the last bit you said? Sorry?
It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to Christmas.
Good stuff. Now, the most exciting thing that's happened to me all year, how good is this, right, is that our number one American fan, Floyd, made me a friend on Facebook tonight, just like half an hour ago. And I thought, mate, how cool is this? We're like peas in a pod, mate.
How exciting.
How good is that? So what do you reckon? That sounds pretty groovy, doesn't it, Miss Claire?
That's cool.
Good stuff.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
I won't tell you how long we've been friends on Facebook.
Mate, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. Isn't that right, Floyd? Hey, dude, you know, what can I say? Very, very groovy. As we said, look, tonight's our last show for the year, so I think it's like episode 17 or whatever else, and we've had lots of sci-fi stuff that we've talked about in the time that we've been on. But, of course, the year stretches way beyond that, and we're going to be covering off our top 5 picks for Claire and myself for 2021, which should be very interesting. Be curious to see what people think of our choices, whether they go, yep, we're on the money, or whether we're just completely off target. So we'll have to see how that goes, which is particularly groovy. But before we do that, of course, we've got to cover off what's been happening in the past week from our sci-fi interests. And I know Claire is busting at the chops to talk about this one. So, Claire, over to you.
Yeah, I'm totally excited. I finally got to watch all of Doctor Who Flux. So it's the kind of the last, it's going to be Jodie's last season, which I'm actually quite sad about. I feel like she didn't quite get the run she deserved. But it was really interesting. First few episodes of this, I won't give any spoilers away. First few episodes, I wasn't sure whether I was going to like it or not. But it really picked up towards the end, and I ended up just loving it. Although, you know, we know she's not going to be coming back. Maybe a Christmas episode, I think, but probably not next season. So that's a bit sad. But it was a good. It's kind of a mini series. This one. No, absolutely not. No, not at all. No spoilers. But it is a contained story. I think that information is already out there. So it's not a bunch of single episodes. It's an ongoing story arc for the whole of this fairly short season. Totally worth watching. I really, really, really enjoyed it by the end. Yeah.
Very good. So we're not going to tell you any spoilers, so we won't slip in the fact that the Doctor had a massive pie fight with the Master, right? In the last 5 minutes of the show. They came out with the cream puffs and they were going hell for leather. But no spoilers. Don't let that spoil your moment of watching good old Doctor Who. Yay, team. So what can I say is if the Doctor was inside a DeLorean, does that mean that inside that there would be a flux capacitor?
Yeah, something like that.
yeah. So in other words, no, not at all. So very, very cool. So yeah, you've enjoyed a bit of the old flux and it's worked for you, yeah?
Yeah. It was good to see, and it was good to see Jodie on screen again. It was really,
very,
really
very good.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Mr. Phil, in charge of the old Doctor Who Club of Victoria, he's very, very excited about the old flux and the Doctor Who and all the rest of it. So, which is kind of groovy. So, just goes to show we can slip in Doctor Who anywhere within this show, which is kind of good. So, anything else that's happened to you this week that has excited you there?
Oh no, just the lead up to Christmas is keeping me busy, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to do much sci-fi stuff. But yeah, Doctor Who, that took up a bit of my time.
Very good. Now, sticking on the Doctor Who theme, good old Michelle's asked the question: male, female for the next Doctor? If you go male, do you think they'll ever go female again? And I'm a dork. Oh, I thought I said it was a dark, and I thought, oh no, I'm a dork. Oh, of course I know I'm a dork. That part's never changed. What do you reckon, Claire? Male, female? What do you think?
I would love to think that they would have another female Doctor. There's been all the usual speculation, but seems to have been less in the way of guesses out there as to who's going to be the next one. I would really dearly love to see another female Doctor. I think going straight back to a male dilutes it a little bit, but I can't see them sticking with male forever. If they do have another male doctor, I think they'll pretty quickly go back to a female. It'll be very interesting to see what happens and who it is. Yeah, very interesting. Looking forward to
Good stuff. And I like this
finding that
regarding
out.
the episode. William said, yeah, he's got reflux. Boom tish. Very, very good. So well done. So yes, good stuff for all your Doctor Who fans out there. Yes, watch this space, as they say.
Worth a watch.
For myself, I had to think, what have I done this week? And I realised exactly what it is that's sci-fi related in my life, is that the store that I've been hanging out in, Aaron's Collectibles, for the past year, I finished my last Saturday for the year, last Saturday, if that makes any sense at all, because obviously next Saturday's Christmas and after that's New Year's Eve. So I've been surrounded every Saturday for the past X amount of months, allowing for the lockdown that occurred for 3 months, surrounded by bloody sci-fi nerdiness and toys and collectibles throughout that entire time. And I just wanted to just chuck that out there and say it's actually been quite good and had a lot of fun with it. And yeah, so I was getting a good dose of nerdy goodness, even though like all the fan club meetings and everything had all shut down throughout the year and all the rest of it. So it was sort of like a bit of a sort of a compromise, if you will. And everybody will ask and say, oh, are there any special stories that came from being in the store? And there is one that I always love to share with people. So there's a television inside the shop. And so they play episodes of TV shows like Batman and Justice League and, Star Trek and whatever. On this one occasion, they were showing an episode, showing Revenge of the Sith, the Star Wars movie. And there's a sequence in the movie when Mace Windu gets killed by Palpatine and chucked out the window of his Senate sort of headquarters. And a guy was standing in the doorway watching this sequence, right? And he's really involved. And as another customer was walking out the door, this customer stopped that customer and said, what do you reckon? Do you reckon Mace Windu died in this scene here? And the one who was leaving actually stopped. And they both watched the TV together and had this conversation. And it was like for 20 minutes, right? And I thought, isn't that interesting? It's like, it's not the staff trying to encourage people to sort of like, embrace their inner nerd and talk about these things. It was actually one customer talking to another customer while the guy was walking out the door. And I thought, that's just magnificent. And that's the nature of what places like that bring. So I always said it's the time and a place. Yeah. If you want to go and talk nerdy things, that's where you do it. And I've got to admit, that was pretty cool. And being a Star Wars fan, obviously, I dialed into their conversation. Oh, sorry, Aaron, I've just got to work on this bookshelf right next to these guys so I can listen into what they're saying. So I thought that was actually kind of cool. So, here's this Michelle. Earning a wage or just hanging around like a bad smell? The answer is both. So there you go. Very, very cool. So maybe more of one than the other. What can I say? So there you go. Anyway, it's the end of 2021. Is there anything you want to say before we move on to our discussion for this evening, Claire?
Nah, I'm just glad you enjoyed yourself in that shop. It's a pretty cool environment to just hang out in.
Yeah, exactly right. So I got to say that it's kind of ironic because I'm not involved in collecting at all, and now I'm working in a collectible store. So I really, slightly fish out of water scenario, but it's all groovy stuff. What can I say? All right, so we're going to move on to our discussion tonight, and of course, we're talking about the year 2021. Now, the key thing is there's been a lot of movies and TV shows, sci-fi related, that have come out this year. A lot of them we sort of didn't know about it. They sort of slipped in under the radar, ended up on Netflix and Amazon and all these sort of places. And I guess to a large degree, a lot of the ones that we've picked out here are pretty mainstream. But, there are some things that you see, some things that you don't see. And, of course, there are things that occurred early in the year and things that happened just recently. But I thought it was a good opportunity just to say, well, okay, what do we think of the top 5 that sort of like pushed our buttons, and sort of go from there and just see whether people think the same thing as we do. So there you go. So we're going to kick this off with Claire's top 5. And I'll tell you what, the first top 5 is an absolute ripper. And I'll tell you what, if people don't agree with this one, you got rocks in your head. So Claire, what is your first top 5?
My number 5 for this year was actually an episode of Sci-Fi Zone, and we talked about living on Mars. It was such an interesting topic. There were so many things that we talked about, so many things that we could have talked about and didn't have time for. It really got my brain churning. But of course, my favorite part, and Dags, I'm pretty sure you know which part I'm talking about.
Yep.
Was when people started planning a convention in my honor. And at one point I was going to be Queen of Mars, and then it kind of went on and developed
Absolutely.
all sorts of different little so I've got an Australian fan club with a president, And I think there's an American chapter as well.
Yeah, it was completely out of control, wasn't it? So there you go. Yeah, Christy came up with the idea of ClareCon 2022. So
Yep.
yeah, and
Yep.
it was
I totally
amazing,
want to
wasn't
do
it? So
it.
yeah,
Oh, and then I got promoted to Messiah. Yes. That was like the highlight of my year.
absolutely awesome. So I'll explain what was going on at the end,
It
but
was pretty
yeah, have a
funny.
look at some of these. Been raised, excuse me, to a Martian
Yeah,
deity. So yeah, and even Gavin has said, look, yeah, this is actually saying this right now. It was loads of fun. So
it was.
yeah,
It was a
well,
fun episode.
yeah.
Yes.
So it's very funny
I
because there are a
enjoyed
lot
that.
of people who will be watching this episode won't know what actually happened, and the irony being that so we had the discussion about Mars, and I don't even know how it even got started. I even watched the episode again today to get all the screen grabs, and it was just the thing about people said, "Oh, I think it was started with Thomas saying, oh, he's going to start up the Claire fan club thing." And then, of course, Floyd jumped in, and it just all took off. And there was this enormous discussion going on. You'd have to look on Facebook to see it about people saying what they were going to make, like you, Queen of Mars, and all sort of thing. It was completely insane. So, but yeah, it was actually a lot of fun. So, what do you reckon? Even now, people are saying all hail Claire. So yeah, there you go. And Gavin's saying it was worth watching again. So there you go. So how good is that? Out of Claire's top picks for 2021, the first thing she's picked is an episode where she was like the queen of like the center point of the discussion. How good?
It goes totally against my character. I'm, shy and introverted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. You were loving every minute as you're going. Oh, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. I was like, yeah, give me more, give me more, give me more. So yeah, it was very, very cool.
It was fun.
There's a question here that's come up from Thomas on a completely unrelated note. If you were to collect again, Dags, would I take it to the Batman thing or something? No, I wouldn't collect anything. I'm done, dusted. I'm out of the gig. So yes, there's no more for me. So, but yes, I like. Oh, how's this one? Princess of Mars.
Run at it though. So
sorry.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Now, as you might have guessed, we're only gagging on that one. So there is actually a proper top five. So we'll kick this one off. And hang on. There we go. Yeah, Claire worship. We're not worthy. Still, look, they've started up again, Claire. So absolutely love it. So there you go. All right, so let's kick this off with a real top five.
That may or may not have been my secret plan.
Yeah, well, exactly right. I absolutely love it. Very, very groovy. So good stuff. All right, so what's your real top five, Claire?
So this one I only watched a couple of episodes on. It's fairly new, and it's kind of sort of technically not sci-fi, but the universe it said it kind of sort of is. I went with Hawkeye for number 5. It was a really good first couple of episodes. I love the characters. I love the woman that's in it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I've got to admit, some of the reason I love this so much was because I'm a huge fan of Jeremy Renner. I really like him. I keep thinking if I was 16 again, I'd have posters of him up on my bedroom wall. I think he's great, and I think he fits this character. He portrays this character so well, and he seems to be enjoying himself. Like it was a great episode. A great couple of episodes that I watched. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of it. So that's my number 5 for the year. Yeah, I like the costumes too. I like the setup for the story, how they got together. Yeah, go on.
Oh no, it is interesting. Like you said, you like Jeremy Renner, and you'd have a post on your wall and all the rest of it. And of course, in the story, the girl here, I've forgotten her name.
Yeah.
She actually is a bit of a fangirl for Hawkeye. So yeah, I guess to a large degree, your life could have potentially emulated hers. So yeah, it's very, very cool. Good stuff.
That's probably partly why I identified with her. That's partly why I enjoyed it, because I could identify with her the way she was, being such a kind of fan. Yeah, It was cool. It was good.
Yeah, it's a good like mystery whodunit sort of story to a large degree, and a couple of things in it that really sort of like you can go, you know what, this could potentially be the real life thing. So at the very start of the series, he's actually in a sitting in the audience watching a musical production of Steve Rogers the musical, and I thought this could actually happen in real life because the Marvel Cinematic Universe is so big, they could easily do a musical number of it. And imagine if you were one of the Avengers watching yourself being portrayed on screen in a musical sort of environment. So that I thought was very, very clever. And because I thought, that could actually happen for real. What do you reckon?
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And I loved the little bit about when he had to go and when he had to go to the or the reenactment, the
Yeah,
and join in the fighting. And I don't want to give away too many spoilers if
yeah.
people haven't seen it yet, but there's some really fun stuff in it. Like Hawkeye always had, I think, that little bit of humor that kind of lightens the mood a little bit, but it can be serious when it needs to be serious. And I think he does it really well, and I think it works really well in this so far anyway in this series. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Good stuff. And even Phil said, yep, he supports your decision of having Hawkeye at number 5, which then, of course, brings us to the good old number 4. So, what have we got for number 4, Claire?
So number 4 is a bit of a long-term fandom of mine, Star Trek Discovery. I've only seen the first couple of episodes of this latest season, but I really like where it's going. It seems to be going back to the kind of more episodic sort of show, but with the overarching story, which I really like. I love Burnham sort of starting to come into her own. I'm not going to give away too spoilers or anything, but the characters are great. The way they interact with each other is great. The inclusiveness I love. The age differences between the characters. Some of them are very, very experienced, and some of them are clearly, shiny, new, excited kind of people. The story arcs that are happening, Tilly and all the development that she's going through and is still going through. She still has that spark of joy and excitement, but she's gaining experience and all that kind of stuff. So there are just so many things that I love about it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where they're going to end up, how it's going to go. I think, yeah, it's exciting.
It's good. I mean, it was good that, and obviously a lot of people all know about what happened with the Discovery's saga with Netflix and Paramount Plus. I mean, moving it to Paramount Plus obviously made a lot of logical sense because it's a Paramount product, but you do wonder how many people are now not watching it because it was shifted from Netflix, because a lot of people have a Netflix login, and I haven't seen it because I don't have a Paramount Plus login. So I'm currently missing out on Discovery. So when I looked at these pictures, I thought, I've got no idea what's going on. So, but, everything's moving forward. And as we once discussed, when the saga did occur, it did go to show that there is actually a big audience for Discovery. There's a lot of naysayers, a lot of people who didn't like it, but there's a lot of people who really jumped on board with it as well. So yay team for good old Discovery. So onward and upward, which is very, very important to see. So there you go.
Yeah.
Good
and
stuff.
it was good that it ended up coming. It was good that it ended up coming to Australia as quickly as it did, because when it all sort of went, when it all kind of went sideways, there was speculation that we wouldn't see it for 6 months. So it was really good to see.
Yeah.
I think they paid attention. I think they could see how upset, the backlash from the fans was immediate and huge. People were really, really, because everyone was looking forward to seeing it so much. So I think they did the right thing getting it, onto the screens as soon as they could. So good, not perfect result, but good result. I think that we can at least see it. Yeah.
Yeah, and as we said, it did prove that, yes, there was actually a loyal fan base waiting to see this show. It's not like no one cares. Actually, a lot of people cared, and it was all very, very groovy. So, good old, hang on, saying, so number one American fan saying, and he's now my best buddy. I'm glad it went for you there, Chloe. So, yeah, we've now got it here. So, yes, there's obviously some lessons to be learned for those people, the powers that be, as it were. So, very, very cool. Good stuff. All right, so that actually, and Thomas is hanging out for a good old get this whole series of Discovery, and at some point it will end up on free to air, so hopefully it won't be too long. So there you go. Was the term "live long and prosper" only a Spock thing? It was actually a Vulcan thing, not a Spock thing. So there you go. But yeah, so just semantics. But there you go. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so that actually brings us to the number 3. So what do we got for number 3, Claire? What's the last 3?
So number 3 is another very recent one, and something I've been looking forward to for a long time. Something we have already talked about on the show. The first movie of Dune. I I know I want to say I
No, it's not that. The moment you said it's Dune, I could just see William, who's watching the show, thinking, "Oh no, not he." He's already fallen asleep. So there you go. So William, we'll be over in a couple of minutes, mate. Just sit tight. So there you go. Anyway, Claire, over to you.
That's okay. I mean, I've already talked about how much I enjoyed this movie. It's beautifully filmed. It's a really good start to what's going to be a series, or at least I don't know. I'm not sure how many movies there are going to be, but at least two. The the filming of it was beautiful. The characterization was really great. The casting I thought was superb. I can't sort of say enough about how much I liked it. The huge, you can see up on the screen the imagery and the huge kind of landscape and all that kind of stuff, but also the tiny little details. Like there were little things like when they set out the thumper, you could actually see the sand moving as it thumped. You were getting those sorts of reactions, that tiny little bit of detail, the tiny little animals hopping around, all those sorts of things. It was a great combination of both the vast openness of Dune, but also the little details and the characters, and I'm really looking forward to the next one now. Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, we did cover it off in great detail, and it's good. I'm surprised that I mean, whether you like it or don't like it or dial into it or didn't dial into it, there's no denying the quality of it is outstanding. And a lot of people who have probably never been exposed to the Dune universe before have sort of given it the first time once over and have just been really, really impressed. And so it should too. So all its accolades are certainly well deserved. So there you go.
Yeah.
Michelle has asked, does the CGI stick out at all? Not in the slightest. It looks completely rigid right across the board. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people dial into. The production values are outstanding. I mean, you can look at some things, you go, clearly that's not a real thing, but you can't tell it's a fake thing either. So, yes. So that's, but we always knew that when the film was announced a few years ago and that they were going to do it, they say at the very least, based over what they did in the 84 version, they could ramp up the visual quality of the effects and make it all seamless. And it is seamless. So, yes, good stuff. Yes. And you're actually interesting, Phil said about seeing it in IMAX. It would actually be quite good in IMAX because there are sequences that are designed to be watched in IMAX, which is very, very good. So good stuff. Now, that actually brings us to Claire's top two. What do you reckon? Top two will be. Put your numbers out and cues out there, kiddies. You've obviously had Star Trek already. Obviously, is it gonna be Doctor Who? You never know. So what have we got for number two there, Claire?
This is one that's been done a few times in a few different ways and with a few different stories, really. But this is the one I've enjoyed the most so far, and that's War of the Worlds. So I'm talking about the version with Gabriel Byrne in it, so the international UK European version. It was really, really clever. It was really, really well done. It was the filming of it was great. The staging, the setting, all that kind of stuff was amazing. Having it running across at least two different countries, in different languages with different groups of people sort of following their stories and all that kind of stuff. And again, I'm not going to give away spoilers, but I really, really enjoyed the final of season two, where it went in season two was just amazing. I can't recommend it highly enough. I think a lot of people will say it was too slow, too talky, too sciencey even. But for me, that's a big part of why it worked. It was a balance. It wasn't all just fights and shoot 'em up and that kind of stuff. I thought it was a good balance of the interaction between people and the way they would have lived and survived in that situation. And the story was just really well laid out and well told all up, I think. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. Recommend it to anyone.
Totally agree. Michelle, yes, airing on SBS. Yes, I don't know if it's airing currently because they tend to be pretty much on top of when the seasons are coming out. But the third,
it's online still.
Yeah, SBS.
You can still watch it on SBS Online.
On demand.
Yeah.
Their second season has finished. They're up to their third season now, aren't they? Yes. I've sort of lost track now. Yeah. Even Gavin said, War of the Worlds was very well done, and it was. So something a little bit different. And all power to it as well. So sometimes the advantage of having shows that are not made by Hollywood means they can do non-Hollywood things, and it's just very refreshing. So, which is good stuff. And exactly as Mr. Phil has said, been meaning to see it on SBS On Demand. So yes, be sure to check it out. Now that of course brings us to the ultimate thing, number one. Now we're asking a moment ago what people thought Claire's top two would be. Thomas has said Loki. Sorry, you're wrong on that one. So what could it possibly be? So what do you reckon? Oh, here we go. We got the drum roll. It's all very exciting. Claire's number one. Maybe it'll be another episode of Sci-Fi Zone where we talk about her. You never know. What do we got, Claire?
I feel like I'm cheating. I feel like I'm cheating a little bit with this one because it's not actually a movie or a TV show yet. It's a book. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. It will be either a movie or a series. I guarantee it, because it's exactly the kind of thing that will work so well on screen, I think. But I just enjoyed it from start to finish. I got into the characters. I could relate to what they were going through. I could understand all their decisions. I could follow science to the degree that you needed to. It was a bit sciencey, but not too sciencey. I have to admit, I didn't check the math every time the math came up, but it seemed to work. It was just a great read. I mean, I'm more of a book person than I am sort of movies and TVs anyway. But this just sucked me in, and I couldn't. Well, I was going to say I couldn't put it down. I had to put it down because I had to work and stuff and sleep. But I didn't want to put it down. I really, really enjoyed it. So synopsis. Basically, what a Hail Mary is last-ditch attempt. So something has affected the sun and it is dying. And this is about how we try to save the planet. The time frame is much, much shorter than global warming, so we're talking within our lifetime kind of destruction. And it's a last-ditch attempt to send a small group of astronauts out into space to figure out what exactly is causing the problem and to figure out a way to fix it. And things go wrong before they even leave planet Earth. Surprise, surprise. Someone who wasn't ever supposed to be on the mission ends up on the mission. That's the protagonist. That's the main character. And what he finds when he gets out into space is completely unexpected, and I don't want to give away any more than that. But really, really good. It is by Andy Weir, who also wrote The Martian. And again, he's got that main character who is totally relatable. He's a human being. He's a person. He's someone that you could see yourself having a conversation with, and you can relate to, his character flaws and his strengths and his weaknesses. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to it being made into either a movie or a miniseries. Yeah.
Well, it's very funny. Gavin has said, couldn't talk this book up enough in one episode. Now it's 2 episodes. So, go out there and check it up. When you said the dude ends up on a ship and he's not meant to be there, I agree with Ange. It reminded me of Dr. Smith from the original Lost in Space, because he wasn't supposed to be on the ship either, which is cool. There was something else. Oh, now we have our number one American fan, Floyd, who's obviously joined us earlier. Now we got our number one UK fan, Lewis, has also joined us. So we got one on each side of the ditch, which is kind of cool. So very, very, very groovy. So, yes. And Christy said, yep, sounds good. Have to get a copy recommended by Claire on this show. So there you go. They need to put the sticker on the book itself as recommended on Sci-Fi Zone, which is very, very cool. So there you go.
Well, it just
and Michelle, yes. Did they have a plan before they leave? You'll have to read the book, mate. Otherwise, you're just going to give too much.
No. There is a plan. Like
there's always a plan.
The ship is part of the plan. But this main guy being on the ship, it's not a stowaway situation, but it's not part of the original plan. It's a completely unexpected last ditch backup.
Yeah, very good.
But yeah, definitely worth a read.
Very good.
Now, and it's just one. That's what I was going to say too. I think it's just won an award at the Hugos too.
Now, just to show that I'm a crispy sort of guy, here's my cat. My freaking cat again. So there we go. So yes, that's my alien experience, if you will. So bloody shit. Say hello to all the people. Okay.
It's that whole online meetings when you're working from home thing. Pets always have to get a look.
Yeah, there you go. Show us your best bits. Okay, very good. All right. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Good stuff. All right, so go and check out the book. It is very, very cool. So there you are. I like this from here. The plan never goes to plan.
The plan never goes to plan.
Exactly right. All right, so that's Claire's top 5. So you're happy with all that, everybody? The top 5, yay team, give it your thumbs up or your thumbs down or whichever else it is. So which is a very, very groovy. So how good is that? Good. All right. So, yeah, no, exactly right. We do that all the time here, which is very, very groovy. All right. So my top 5. So, yeah, where do I start? Oh, I'm going to start at number 5, I guess. So there you go. And no, it's not an episode of Sci-Fi Zone where I talk about myself. So there's just clarify that, because my episode of number Sci-Fi Zone is where Claire talks about herself, because it was just damn good. And I must admit, I would love to see Claire as a deity on Mars. That works for me. No worry about that. All hail the goddess Claire. For myself, top 5. So I'm just going to plow through this in my own sort of unique and bumbling way. My top 5, I start off with Resident Alien. And all things being equal, it's not the greatest show in the entire world, but I actually found it to be relatively entertaining. What I really dialed into wasn't Alan Tudyk as the main character; it was all the supporting characters. It's one of those shows where I felt the casting was really good, from this lady here through all the other background people as well. It had a lot going for it, and I dialed in more of those characters than I did actually for Alan's character. So for those who don't know, obviously he's an alien living in, I don't know, in a suburban, what do you call it, rural sort of American setting. And he's just he worked his way into the society, but only a couple of kids can actually physically see what he really looks like. And of course, there's an entire story as to how he gets there and what he's doing there and all the rest of it. So have you seen this at all, Claire?
I have seen a few episodes, not a lot, but a few, enough to know that I enjoyed it. It was a fun, it was quite light fun.
Yeah.
From what I saw. Yeah.
I mean, it's the old gag. Of course, he's an alien. He doesn't integrate into society, but somehow he has to integrate into society. And for that reason, he's got to sort of work his way through it. And of course, he's dealing with relationships and friendships and the fact that the kids can see what he really looks like. And this is what a close-up of his face, what it looks like. And the thing that I could not work out is why he has a Mercedes-Benz logo on his chin. I never figured that one out. So if you had to just made that blank, it wouldn't make any difference. But for whatever reason, he's got a Mercedes-Benz logo. So, but no, I thought it was actually quite a good show, very entertaining, and as to be expected, Alan does a very good job making it very, very entertaining and amusing. And it's got some interesting sort of plot twists as well. Things you go, oh, okay, I didn't see that one coming, which is kind of groovy. I don't know. I assume there's a second season. I'm not sure. But even if they don't make one, as it was actually quite good and entertaining. He even pronounced his name as Tudyk. Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, Tudyk, Tudyk, whichever. So, yeah, very, very cool. My number 4, which I picked out, and this is kind of interesting because I am not even remotely a fan of this particular franchise, but I like what they did with this, was Masters of the Universe Revelation. Now, of course, when this series came out on Netflix a few months ago, it divided the fan base in a massive way because its focus was not on He-Man or Skeletor. Its focus was actually on the other characters. So you got Andra and Teela and Evelyn and all the rest of it. And I really liked that. It was something a little bit different. It wasn't just the dudes hacking and slashing and carrying on like a pork chop. It actually had a bit of depth to it. And aside from the fact that it looked stunning, I actually really dialed into the story. And I know nothing about Masters Universe, right? It's just not my forte at all, even though I work in a toy shop that sells all the stuff. And I found that with the 2 parts together, part 1 and part 2, it actually gelled together really, really well. So when it first came out, it divided the fan base because the fan base, the devoted fan base, they cracked the shits like you wouldn't believe because He-Man and Skeletor weren't the main sort of characters in the show. As I said, the other people were. But later on, they come back into it. And when they do come back in, it all makes a lot more sense. So it was preemptive, sort of like whinging, if you will. And but as someone who was watching it for the outside for the first time, I felt they did a really good job with it. I really liked it, really enjoyed it. It wasn't too long, and all the episodes were dropped at the same time. Part 1, part 2, just binged a whole lot in a couple of hours. And for that reason, I thought, you know what? As an outsider, it worked for me. And yeah, I was very happy with it. So yeah, I assume that's something you haven't watched?
No. It sounds a little. Well, I was going to say it sounds a little bit like Lower Decks, where the captain's not the focus of the story, but it sounds like that shifted partway through on this one.
It has some very good character building moments with the female characters, and like Evelyn, for example, isn't just like an evil lady the whole way through. She's actually got a bit of a softer side, and how they're dealing with Teela and Andrew and all that. And I liked it. I thought it worked really well, and it works really well for a modern audience, in my opinion, rather than just saying, it's a boy show with just big dudes hacking and slashing and carrying on. So all power to him. Good luck to it. It was made by Kevin Smith, so he's a guy who knows his stuff. So
right.
yeah, it was really, really groovy, which I thought was, yeah. So that made my top 4. So number 3, believe it or not, my number 3 is the same as your number 2, which was War of the Worlds. Now, the funny thing about, I just wanted to put my 5 cents in regarding this show.
Yeah.
Like you, I agree. I really enjoyed it, really dialed into it. If I had a criticism, it was the fact that they actually called it War of the Worlds, because the name conjures up the book and all the other adaptations. And this one was so far removed from that story, it would have worked better, or possibly worked better, under a different title. Because in the end, it's like, hang on, it's not actually War of the Worlds in the strictest sense. So, but that aside, I agreed with everything you said earlier. The fact that it's an international production, it's very un-Hollywood, has a very different look and feel. And it also makes you think, if this happened in real life, how would people deal with it? And because it has ordinary people put in very extraordinary situations, you're thinking, shit, it'd be a bit of hard yakka. So yeah, I just wanted to chuck my 5 cents in. So anything extra you wanted to put in regarding War of the Worlds?
No, I think you. I think I went over what I thought of it. Yeah,
good.
I liked having the different viewpoints, but I agree with you that. Well, I think the name was probably deliberate. Like, yeah. I think yeah. Yep. I mean, it's not the traditional War of the Worlds story, but having that name and setting it up as if it is sets you up for the unexpected twist, and I think that worked really well.
Yeah.
So know. Yeah.
And it does have some really, really good plot twists. Gavin's asked, what would you call it? I'm not entirely sure you call it anything, really, but War of the Worlds has a stigma associated with it, has this long history connected to it. And as we mentioned in the other episode of this show, there is actually another series made in England called War of the Worlds, which is set in the 1800s, which does follow the book. So you've got 2 shows with the same name. One follows the book, the original H.G. Wells book, and this current version, which is not even remotely close. So, it's just a small thing. It's no big deal, but it's bound to confuse some people. So there you go. War of the Worlds 2.0. Absolutely love it. So there you go. Would you have watched it if I called something? I would have, because I actually got recommended to it by people on this show. In fact, one of our regular viewers on the Wednesday show kept leaving us at 9:30 to watch it. But I agree with you. The name definitely hooked me in. There's no denying that. But and once, like a lot of things, once you see the first episode, you go, you know what? I'm keen to sort of see where it goes. But it's not the end of the earth.
Interestingly, I mean, there've been so many versions of War of the Worlds that it wasn't actually the title that got me interested in it. It was, I saw the previews for it, and I quite like Gabriel Byrne, and I haven't seen him in anything in a long time. But I also liked the international flavour that you could see even in the trailers, and that kind of got me curious more than anything else. So I reckon I would have watched it even if it was called something different.
Yep, totally agree. It's the first version of that story, where, as we said earlier, is very un-Hollywood, and the fact that it does have the European flavour, and you do have to read subtitles, and you've got the English side and the French side. Yeah, fantastic, loved it. So, good on them, and so I agree with Claire on that one. In regards to its finding its way into our top 5, which of course brings me down to my top 2. Oh my goodness gracious me, top 2. Now, what do you reckon this could be, kiddies? So, you think of all the things that have come out this year, what would be my top 2? Well, you might not have guessed this one. And I have discussed this on another show back in May, but I loved and adored Falcon and the Winter Soldier from Marvel. Now, there's been a few Marvel TV series that came out. You had WandaVision, you got this, you got Loki, and now you got Hawkeye. And the reason, and as I said, I've sort of covered this off before, the reason why I dialed into this show so much is because it was the only series of all the Marvel series that dealt with the issue, what happens after Endgame when all the people come back, right? Because the story is, obviously, all the 50% of the universe's population have all been knocked off. 5 years later, they all return. But what if people are not happy about it? And I really love that. And I thought, it's dealing with real world issues. And the fact, like in this case, you got a Captain America who did not want to be Captain America, who's sort of pushed into it. How do people deal with that? And I absolutely loved it, and had a lot. It was a very, very intense, very real world, probably a little bit too real world for some people. So you had terrorist organizations like the Flag Smashers. In this case, but I found that of all the series they produced, it was the only one that went the extra step, went completely hardcore, and I felt that was really, really good. So there's some really nasty stuff in it, some really violent stuff. To be fair, it was a little long, so 6 hours. Probably could have been cut down a lot shorter. As a movie, it would have been fantastic, and of course they bring back some famous characters as well, and it was the thing that really worked for me. So WandaVision was sort of nice and saccharine and sweet, but Falcon was hardcore nasty. And had a really, really dark edge to it. And I thought it was one of the rare occasions where Marvel said, okay, let's head down this path that we don't normally head down and put a really, really dark edge on something and just show that not all positives are positives for everybody. And I thought that was really, really good. So, so that for me, I pushed all my buttons. I absolutely adored it. I thought it was absolutely outstanding. And one of the best things that Marvel have produced out of all the things that they've ever produced, I thought that was right up there. So, but that's my my personal thing. Our number one American fan, Floyd, agreed. And he said it was well written. Absolutely. But yes, admittedly, 6 hours, it is a bit of a stretch. But that aside, the quality is cinematic quality. It's absolutely awesome. So that was my choice. So there you go. Very, very cool. Oh, here we go. The drum roll for number one. So what would my number one be? So if you sort of know me well enough, you should be able to figure it out. And I'm sure some people out there are going to be going, "Oh my God, it's got to be Star Wars: The Bad Batch," because that's the only Star Wars thing that came out this year. And the answer is no. Of course, I would have to pick Foundation. So I finally got around to watching Foundation. Now, before I go any further, have you seen this at all?
No, not yet.
Cool. So I finally got to see Foundation. There's 8 or 9 episodes for this, and it was this is cinematic quality. It was absolutely outstanding. Now it might not be anything related to the books whatsoever. So if you're like, it's a bit like I, Robot the movie, right? It's got the name, but everything else is completely different. Foundation, I think, is very, very similar. Some aspects are the same, but the rest of it is totally different. And it would be awesome seeing this on a cinema. And some of the ideas and concepts behind it, like in this case, you've got the Cleons, like the different emperors. They're all clones of exactly the same person. So you've got the young kid, the middle guy, and the old guy, and they're all identical. They're just in different stages of age. And I loved it. I thought it was really, really good, really well done. Beautiful scenics. And like this is obviously the Emperor's castle. We discussed this once before, whereas the only part that was actually on the surface that saw the sun was the Emperor's sort of castle and grounds. And it had a really, really interesting story, some really good characterizations, and had some really interesting sort of twists. And it was the kind of thing that I thought, if you like hardcore sci-fi, now of course Dune, as we know, has been remade a couple of times, but this is the first version of Foundation we've ever seen. And so everything was new. Everything was like, okay, you can't predict what's going to happen. And that really worked for me. About my only criticism was the fact that Selden was called Harry, and I always thought it was Hari. What did you ever think his name was pronounced as?
Me too.
Yeah,
I would have said Hari.
Yeah. So that kind of grated with me, Harry Selden. I thought, that kind of doesn't work for me, but I prefer Hari. But that's only a small thing. And I absolutely loved it. And like it starts off with this sort of thing with Trantor and the space bridge and all the rest of it. And then this is the kind of thing that would be absolutely spectacular on a cinema screen. So. So they've done the first season. They're trying to do 8 seasons, have 80 episodes in total. Maybe they will get to it. Maybe they won't. But if you like, it's not as dark or as hardcore as Dune. But by the same token, if you like sci-fi with this really good world building, some really good twists in the story, it's like stuff you just cannot predict, then Foundation, I absolutely loved it. So, yes, it was very, very cool. So what do you reckon? Michelle said it's on her list. Lee, I don't know the actor's name. Sorry about that. So Phil said a Foundation was an interesting choice. I was very keen when they first announced it to say what they were going to do and how it was going to turn out, and I was pleasantly impressed. Yes, but it's like a lot of things where it sort of jumps off in different areas. So it's a bit like Dune to a degree. You got stuff happening here, stuff happening there, stuff happening there, and it does jump around a fair bit. So you really do have to like binge watch it to keep on top of what's going on. So. Yes, exactly right. Very good. Grant has said he's never heard of it. Okay, well, there you go. Unfortunately, it is sort of buried deep on Apple Plus, right? It's not like on Netflix or Amazon or any of the more regular, the big powerhouse streaming service. It is sort of tucked away. And a lot of people did forget it. I think when June came out, Foundation just disappeared in the background, which is unfortunate. But there you go. What do you reckon, Claire?
I'm really keen to see it. And I'm really glad to hear that you enjoyed it, Dags, because Foundation was it's a huge series of books, and it's something that I would have loved to have seen on the screen long before now. But I'm kind of glad it didn't get up before now, because I think what they've done with it, the way it looks, just from the trailers and stuff, looks absolutely amazing. I'm really keen to see it. I'm going to be house sitting for my sister in January, and she has Apple TV, so that'll be the first thing I'm going to binge watch while I'm there.
Awesome.
I'm quite keen to see how it is.
Very cool. And people with home theatre systems, big screens, they're going to love it. So yeah, I was very impressed. Yeah, so very interesting concepts and well worth checking out. So there, good old Harry Seldon, very, very cool. Good old Floyd has gone, yay, or this is what he and I like, peas in a pod, you know, we just like everything that's exactly the same, which is kind of cool. Michelle's asked if you own the books for Foundation. I assume the answer would be yes. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
good
I do.
Stuff.
I've got good all stuff. Of them. There are quite a lot. It's a whole shelf, pretty much.
Yeah. Good, very, very cool.
All right. Read. They're it's a big story.
Yeah.
It's a very, very big story. Especially if you get through all the books. But it's worth a read. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Yep. Totally agree with you. And I, like you, I'd read the books like 101 years ago. So I didn't remember the story. I just remembered a couple of the characters and, you know, Trantor and Harry Seldon. And that was it. So that's why I thought, you know what, I don't have that I wouldn't use the word corruption is the wrong thing, but where you got that preconceived idea as to how it should be and go, no, you can't do that. So when it's good sometimes when you just go like, that's why I loved iRobot. I never read the book, so I just took it at face value as to what it was. So very, very good. And you are right. Yeah, Ange, it's a big story over millions of years, which is makes it very, very groovy. All right. So guess what, kids? So we've gone through our top fives, which is absolutely awesome. So you've actually realized what we love. Now, of course, tonight's our last episode and Christmas is coming, right? So that obviously brings us to a bit of a nice little sci-fi image of Christmas. Now we're going to put our hats on because we got into the Christmas theme. So come on, Claire, put your hat on. There we go. Yeah. Just for anybody who wanted to know, where's the Christmas theme in this show? There you go. Very, very cool. Yay, team. So I just wanted to bring everybody's attention to this, right? So hang on, what? Queen Claire has a library, not a book collection. Now, well, that's actually true. She does have a library, which is very, very groovy. All right. So it's Christmas time and it's science fictions, and you go, okay, well, how does sci-fi fit with Christmas and all the rest of it? And you could say, you know what? You can have like Star Wars done up and Christmas themed things and all the rest of it. And you go, that's all very, very groovy. But of course, if Star Wars isn't your cup of tea, you can go, you know, Star Trek. We go Christmas and Star Trek. They go hand in hand, like Enterprises and Dry Docks, which is kind of cool. Or if you're sick of the old Star stuff, go the old Docky Who, which is particularly groovy. What do you reckon, Claire? How good is that? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. I was waiting for you to say something so I could just fill some time.
Well, right. Doctor Who does Christmas episodes. I love Christmas episodes.
Yeah. Hang on. You ruined my joke. Okay, so if you're interested in what would I watch sci-fi related that's Christmas related at exactly the same time? And you go, you know what? As you said, there's Christmas Doctor Who episodes and all this sort of stuff. Chuck all that out the window, right? You need the ultimate science fiction Christmas movie. And there's only and for that reason, I've brought this trailer out to show you, right? There's only one, right? In the history of cinema, there's only one. So you're going to have to check this out, guys. Science fiction and Christmas go hand in hand when you watch this.
Santa sets up a fantastic automatic toy factory on Mars. The Martian leader battles the wicked Voldar in a desperate effort to save Santa, the wise man of Mars. 900 years old. The Battle of the Toys, when Martian kids and Earth kids join Santa to battle the bad guys of Mars. For real space-age fun, you'll be out of this world when Santa Claus conquers the Martians.
Now, if you're the kind of person who thought, oh, that's a trailer for Project Hail Mary, no. Now, the thing that I love about that particular movie, and believe me, it is complete shit, right, is the title. Not Santa Claus helps the Martians. It's not Santa Claus comforts the Martians. No. Santa Claus conquers the Martian. So his big black boot just crashes over the top of those little Martian dudes and go, here we go, ho, ho, F and ho, down we go. Like, what's the deal with that, Claire? What do you reckon of that?
Oh my God. Well, if I was Queen of Mars, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't conquer the Martians.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. So Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, the ultimate science fiction Christmas movie from the 1960s. And believe me, it's got a theme song that will just like make your head explode. So there you go. How good is this? Kelvin has said it's weird. You reckon? Yeah, exactly right. So very, very, very good. I like that. That's so cheesy. I can smell the mold growing. I tell you what. So it's very, very, very cool. But yeah, so the Martians kidnap Santa Claus because all the kids on Mars are so miserable. And of course, good old Santa's going, well, I'll have to help everybody out here. But yes, it was a classic movie of the 60s. And believe it or not, the tragic part is I've actually got 2 copies of it. Absolutely. Yeah, here we go. Wow, indeed. So there you go. What do you reckon, eh? So what do you reckon, Claire?
That's hilarious.
Chrissy Feckett, she might have seen it many moons ago. I actually had some friends come at one time after Christmas. I said, oh, you got to watch this movie. I put it on for them and they fell asleep through it. So where's the respect? What can I say? So there you go. Very good stuff. I'm trying to think about something else to show. Oh, yes, I do at the end. So, yes, very, very cool. What do you reckon, Claire? So Christmas sci-fi movies, what floats your boat, if there's anything at all besides your Doctor Who specials?
I don't know. I've never really thought about it, actually. I mean, I tend to watch sci-fi movies on Christmas, but they're not necessarily Christmas movies. I do totally look forward to the Doctor Who, though. And it's kind of a shame that they're doing New Year's ones now instead of Christmas ones. But yeah, I don't know. Fifth Element seems to be the one that comes up for me around Christmas all the time. I don't know why.
Yeah.
No idea why.
Yeah, there's definitely some movies that a lot of people say, oh, you watch them at Christmas time. I mean, I know it's not a sci-fi movie, but Die Hard usually is right at the top of the list. Yeah. And there you go. Yeah. Another one American fan has said, yeah, we're going to miss this show. I completely understand that. There you go. Very, very good. It has to be better than Santa from what is it? It has to be better than Santa Inc. from what I gather. Yeah, not entirely sure, but there you go. The aren't any films set in the North Pole by definition sci-fi? I wouldn't have thought so. So, but yeah, I don't know. Very, very cool. All right, so we're going to wrap the show up in a few ticks. And it is, as I said, it's our last show of the year. I bet Claire has a book that has Christmas sci-fi. It probably does. I mean, you've got the Galaxy magazines. That image I showed earlier, that was actually from a Galaxy magazine.
I'll tell you what I was going to say. Yeah. I'll tell you what I do have. I have the December issues of the Galaxy magazine, and they were almost always Christmas covers. That image you showed at the beginning, that was one of them. So I've got a whole bunch of those. And they have Christmas stories in them. That's
yeah. So I found this one today. 1953, I think this was the issue for this. Yeah. So, but that's kind of cool, isn't it? Carol's turning up to Santa Claus. And the next thing you see, of course, the next image from this is Santa Claus brings out a shotgun and goes, pesky aliens. No, he doesn't do that. But yes, very, very good. All right. Hang on. Just give me, I've got to press a couple of buttons here, get myself into place. Couple of last quick comments. Midwife Christmas in 22, Silent Night, Deadly Night. Yeah, exactly right. All right, so to let everybody know what's happening for the future. So as I said, we are finishing off the show tonight, and we'll just wrap up in a few ticks. So good old Sci-Fi Zone is done and dusted for this year. But what's happening in January for those who are interested now? For those who are aware, I do a show with another guy called Aaron on Wednesday night, and Wednesday night will be after this Wednesday. That show will be off the air until February. So I'm decided to go it alone. So for the Wednesday night episodes, I'm going to be going nerding with me for the 4 weeks that Rip It Off the Card is not airing, which is the Wednesday night. So I'm starting off with a bit of a discussion about good old the miniseries back in the 80s, stuff that I know some bits and pieces about. So that'll be a live show on January the 5th at 8 o'clock. So it could be a bit of fun, and I'm not used to sort of going it alone, but we'll give it a shot and see what happens. And yeah, exactly right, Gavin. Get in the zone. Yes, exactly right. Very, very cool. And something that's actually happening in next week for those who are Star Wars fans out there, because we haven't discussed Star Wars at all. The Book of Boba Fett is coming out, and Aaron and myself are launching a new live show, which we'll be doing the night after, reviewing the first episode. And obviously at the moment there is no name for the first episode that I'm aware of, so we just call it episode 1. And there will be spoilers. But yeah, if you've got nothing on next Thursday, December the 30th, after you've watched the show, Book of Boba Fett, tune into us and listen to see what we have to say about it, which could be kind of cool. So yeah, very, very groovy. What do you reckon? Good stuff. Although you missed all the number of episodes live this year, all your efforts have been appreciated. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Well, that's the thing. We do actually have to thank everybody who has actually joined us for this little journey. It's been a bit of shits and giggles along the way, both here in Australia, in America, and in England. Oh, how good is that? So, yeah, people coming in from everywhere. So anything you want to say, Claire, before we sign off for this evening?
No, I was just going to say happy Christmas to everyone, and thank you so much for joining us, because the show wouldn't be the same without your comments and without your input. So we really appreciate that too. But yeah, have a happy Christmas, and I hope you all have a very safe and happy New Year as well.
Very, very good. And if you're going to experience Christmas on Christmas Day, just make sure you do it in the zone. How good is that? All right, we'll leave you to it. And with a bit of luck, I personally might see some of you next year on the 2022, 5th of January, Yay team. What do you reckon, eh? Good stuff. All right, we'll leave you to it. And have a good Chrissy New Year and all the rest of it. And bye for now. Okay.